Hello and welcome to the latest episode of New Dad on Old Movies. I'm your host, Jason the New Dad, and I'm joined live via low orbit by my daughter Indy. Hopefully I'll catch her when she comes around again. This channel is intended as a casual primer for classic movies. I'll be focusing mainly on the ones I think many people have heard of but perhaps not seen. The guidelines. 1. Every film is one I like. Naturally. 2. Every film is from before 1970. And 3. Every film has to be available on Blu-ray or DVD. So let's get to it. In this episode, we're watching the 1943 psychological noir thriller Shadow of a Doubt, one of the early American films by the master of suspense himself, Alfred Hitchcock. One might ask why I would choose this movie as the first Hitchcock film, rather than, say, Psycho, or The Birds, or North by Northwest, or Rear Window, or Vertigo, or Strangers on a Train, or The Lady Vanishes. I chose Shadow of a Doubt because although lesser known, it is touted by Hitchcock himself as his favorite. In a 1964 interview with Fletcher Markle, he confirms this. Of course, in 1964, he hadn't yet made Topaz. That's funny because Topaz wasn't very good. In Shadow of a Doubt, Teresa Wright plays Charlie, a bored teenager who loves and idolizes her mother's younger brother, Charlie, played by Joseph Cotten. She was named after him. He's also a sinister creep, and she starts to suspect him of a series of murders. One of the best elements is the way it takes the safe, your loving family, the pristine suburbs, and makes them dangerous and sinister. It's an early precursor to the slasher flicks of the 70s and 80s and their subversion of wholesome places. The original story idea was based on the real-life serial killer Earl Nelson, aka the Gorilla Man, who in the 1920s murdered several women in the United States and Canada before being apprehended and convicted and executed in Winnipeg, Manitoba. The influence of Shadow of a Doubt is less overt than, say, Psycho, but Psycho likely couldn't have existed without the groundwork laid by Shadow of a Doubt. Anyway, let's get to the setup. We begin with the Universal logo, easily the most sparkly, spectacular Universal logo of them all. We get some expected credits and a shadow of a font. While people dance, we fade in stark contrast to underneath a bridge where some down-on-their-luck fellows look out onto the water. We see derelict cars and then children playing in the streets. We move to a boarding house where we see a man, Joseph Cotten, is lying on his bed smoking a cigar, loose cash strewn on his bedside table and the floor. His landlady enters and refers to him as Mr. Spencer, and tells him 2 men came by looking for him. She comments on the pile of money he left lying around. Mr. Spencer says a few cryptic things about maybe meeting the 2 men, maybe not, and generally acting odd and creepy.
Now that I am here, I'll have to meet them. I may even go out and meet them.
The landlady lowers the blind and leaves. Mr. Spencer gets up, takes a drink, and smashes the glass in anger. He peeks out the window and sees the 2 men standing across the street. He then collects his things and leaves. He exits the building and boldly walks right by the 2 men, who do their best to look like they don't notice him. We jump high and wide and watch Mr. Spencer give the 2 men the slip. Mr. Spencer sends a telegram to Joseph Newton in Santa Rosa, California, in which he announces his intention to visit, sends his love to his niece Charlie, named after him, Uncle Charlie. We get a moment that parallels and contrasts the beginning of the film, revealing the suburban, small-town feel and cutting to young Charlie, played by Teresa Wright, on her bed in the same composition as her uncle's. Charlie's little sister Anne, played by Edna Mae Wonnacott, is reading and eating an apple and very slowly answers the phone.
Newton's residence, Anne Newton speaking.
It's a telegram for her mother, and Anne declines to take a note in the cutest, rude way possible.
I don't see a pencil, so maybe she better call you back. I'm trying to keep my mind free of things that don't matter.
Enter Joe Newton, family patriarch played by Henley Travers. He and Anne have some delightful banter. Anne comments on his Unsolved Crimes magazine that's tucked under his arm, as Joe is one of those true crime enthusiasts. Joe heads upstairs and checks in on his older daughter, Charlie, who's in the middle of an emo sulk fest about how much life sucks. Charlie's mother, Emma, arrives, and Charlie sulks at her for a while too. Suddenly, she gets an idea. She'll send a telegram to her dear Uncle Charlie, and he'll show up and save them from the doldrums of suburban life. Exit Charlie, and then Anne tells Mum that there's a telegram. Coincidence? While Mum checks the telegram, Anne insults her intelligence. I love this kid.
Anne says you have a telegram for me.
Mama, you don't have to shout. Really, Papa, you'd think Mama had never seen a phone.
This scene is wonderful, full of humor and character moments, and some of the best of Hitchcock. As Charlie tries to send a telegram, she discovers there's already one from her beloved uncle. As she walks away joyfully, we fade to the train, where the train attendant, is that a word? Calls Charlie Mr. Otis. Now he's Mr. Otis, not Mr. Spencer. The family arrives at the train station to greet Uncle Charlie, and they do joyously. The Charlies adore each other. Only Mom isn't there because she's home making dinner. We'll jump ahead a minute to the dinner, where Uncle Charlie is regaling them with stories and handing out presents to everybody. A wristwatch for Dad and a fur for Mom. Young Charlie rejects his offer of a present, and Uncle Charlie follows her. He asks her why, and she says they are too close for her to accept gifts, that she knows him too well. Then she says that inside there is something nobody knows about him, which makes him uncomfortable. She says, something secret and wonderful, and I'll find out. He says the ominous line.
It's not good to find out too much, Charlie.
What secrets is Uncle Charlie hiding? How does he have so much cash? Who are those men following him? Check out Shadow of a Doubt and see for yourself. Edna Mae Wonnacott as the little sister Anne is hilarious. And I gotta give a shout out to Hume Cronin, who plays the father's true crime enthusiast buddy, Herb Hawkins.
The best way to commit a murder... I know. Hit him on the head with a blunt instrument.
You may know Hume Cronin as Jessica Tandy's husband. He was in like Cocoon and stuff. You should check out director Park Chan-wook's Stoker from 2013, a great thriller that was heavily influenced by Shadow of a Doubt. Young India Stoker, Mia Wasikowska, loses her father Richard in a car accident, and at his funeral meets her mysterious Uncle Charlie. Never good. Needless to say, all is not right with Charlie, and things take a sinister turn very quickly. Although not all the same sinister turns that Shadow of a Doubt took. Do you think Stoker would make a good double feature with Shadow of a Doubt? Do you have a better idea? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, then like this video and subscribe. And until next time, I'm gonna go snag my... Next time. I'm gonna snag her out of the orbit next time. And here's a second of footage from the next episode.